fell in love with a landscape and transformed himself into an artistic legend. Became so passionate about the beauty of. Dedicated his life to capturing it on paper. Entirely driven by his obsession. Began an epic journey that not only changed the life of one man, but changed the whole experience of. With incredible streams and meadows and wildlife. Steep canyon walls. This rock has a history. It reminds me of the Grand Canyon. It came from somewhere. A lot of these rocks have been dated to be. But it might surprise you to know. All of the geological formations that we see here, the canyons, the layers. There was nothing here but. In fact, before 1980 most people had never even heard of Mount St. Helens. 1980. Molten rock created a steam blast. There was some more volcanic activity. Created a mud flow that cut out this entire canyon. It also cut through deep bedrock. Help change your view of the present and the present world around you. There are a lot of assumptions made by a lot of people. How do those assumptions affect? How do they play into how we view science and the Bible? Was there a global flood that destroyed the earth? Or is that a myth? There are a lot of things we need to consider. One of the most fascinating is the account of the flood. Was the whole earth covered with water? Genesis says the waters prevailed so mightily on the earth that all the high mountains under the whole heaven were covered. Wouldn't there be a lot of evidence? Besides being at home, Grand Canyon is my favorite place on earth. Every time I come here it is breathtaking. I've got to admit, I've been here several times. We kind of have a layer cake here, don't we? We kind of have a layer cake here, don't we, of strata. So when you say sedimentary strata, you're talking about the layers that we see? And accumulated one on top of another. And then, of course, naturally they convert to rock. There are marine fossils through all the layers. But the standard explanation is over the North American continent. Don't see the passage of time. And then we look at the strata themselves. And they provide evidence of rapid, very rapid sedimentation. Just minutes or hours is all that's needed to make layers. My understanding is the ocean floor upheaval occurred. Some type of magma or earthquake propelled the oceans over the continent. And that represents the later stages of the flood and the retreat of the flood water. This surface was beveled by retreat of flood waters. And as the flood retreated into the newly formed ocean basins, then the continents probably uplifted. Colorado River over tens of millions of years cut the Grand Canyon. Most geologists have jettisoned that idea. Then how in the world do we get this all carved out? Time is not a magic wand that solves all the geologic problems of the world. The power of moving water was beveling and pulverizing rock, depositing great thicknesses of layers. How much time did it take to form what we see around us? I was reminded how much smaller and more powerful computers had become since I first started using them. Our changing assumptions about computers were really a series of paradigm shifts. Thomas Kuhn's classic, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, describes this notion of paradigms. All the complexity in life has to be built bottom-up by strictly physical processes. Begins fully formed as a functioning system. The origin of the geological formations that we have around us. At the deepest level, the difference is two competing views of history. Genesis was written in Hebrew. The account of the flood. It's an accurate historical account. Would stand in direct opposition to the conventional paradigm that artistically breathing in him the breath of life. In Noah's genealogy we have the entire flood account. The narratives are embedded in the genealogies. That was small compared to historical eruptions. What we see in the present is really only minuscule by comparison of what was seen in the past. That's telling us something about the historic past. How do we determine the age of these rocks? You've got all the different elements that come out of the volcano are all mixed up, and the rock starts to crystallize. We're seeing huge differences by using different methods. So once people get locked into that focus, anything outside their field of view that conflicts with that focus is marginalized. It's like a stack of pancakes.